Hey everyone, it's Brett Hornby here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel here, and almost, let's say, I'm done giving sports leagues updates on their return to play plans here. However, in this video, with the ongoing global pandemic with COVID-19 or coronavirus here, I'm just going to talk about, let's just say, my confidence on each of the major league sports on their return to play plans here. As here we are approaching the third week of July here. Not only I missed the full traditional stampede because we didn't have it due to the global pandemic here, but I've been missing sports here too. All major league sports all shut down at the same time here. However, there's plans that in a couple weeks here, it's all going to start up again, either on the diamond, or on the court, or on the ice here. Gridiron is still yet to be determined on both sides of the border in Canada and U.S. there. Yeah, didn't mean to throw that both sides of the border pun in, because been hearing a lot of that, managing the border here between Canada and U.S. here, which might, tie in with my return to play plans and my confidence on each of the major leagues here. So let's get going here. I'm going to say of the major leagues here that on the return to play plans that I have the least confidence in right now in terms of games getting in, being played, and eventually a championship awarded is Major League Baseball here. I mean, there was all that squabbling from when spring training was pulled the plug on, when all major league sports were canceled or postponed here, to deciding when the heck are we going to play, how many games, how are we going to divvy the salaries here. But eventually Major League Baseball has settled on a 60-game regular season here, where it'll still end, I think, around September 27th there. And I think the playoffs would begin on the 29th here, and it wouldn't be an expanded playoffs. So it would be a 60-game season here. However, the part that I think gives me the least confidence in Major League Baseball in terms of getting games in and eventually awarding a World Series champion here is there's going to divvy up the 30 teams in 3 different divisions here instead of the National League and the American League here, and there'll be a designated hitter rule that's universal for all games here. But it's the fact that they're still traveling, playing in their home ballparks with no fans here. And what complicates things a little more here is the fact that you got the Toronto Blue Jays, who were fighting to get their games played in Canada, in Toronto here. However, Toronto might be backtracking there, and also it'll be complicated between the travel, where you got teams traveling from the U.S. into Canada there, playing in their home ballpark at the Rogers Centre there. That I think I also heard that maybe Toronto was considering playing their home games in Buffalo, New York, where their AAA team is, which is not too far from Toronto here, and it'll all be in the same country here. But the schedule has been released. There's a 6-game schedule being the key word, that things are planned here. But I don't think Major League Baseball, because there's no way to manage or contain the outbreak here, because there's really no plan to have hub cities or bubbles where you have more teams in one place in a controlled environment here, which could work for and against here, which I'll talk about later in this video here. But I have the least confidence in Major League Baseball and their plans here, just because they're still playing in their home cities here, and the fact that, cases, especially in the U.S. here, I mean, here in Alberta, it's definitely gone up a little bit here, but not to dangerously high levels like in the U.S. here, with many hotspot states like California, Florida, Arizona. Those are the ones I could think of for sure. New York used to be the epicenter, but they definitely have got it under control here, to the point there that state now has put in kind of the quarantine act that we had here in Canada, that if you travel from out of Canada into Canada here, you have to quarantine for 14 days here. That's what they have in New York there, or at least what I heard. Don't quote me on it, but I just think it's going to be the most trickiest for Major League Baseball, because they're still traveling, they're still out in public here, and many players have tested positive. I mean, it's bound to happen when you have testing here, but then you got many big name players that have walked out here, They need umpires. I remember seeing earlier this week there that 11 umpires have called themselves out of action here, that they will not work, because you got to remember they, are people too, and so it's definitely interesting to see how Major League Baseball is going to pull it off. But that league, I have the least confidence in on their return to play plan on getting games and the World Series here. I could throw in up next is Major League Soccer here, which kind of also ties in with the NBA. But Major League Soccer also had plans to have their tournament at the same location in Orlando, Florida, where the ESPN MLB Sports here. This is where it can kind of come in, where it works for or against when you have a bubble here, where you have a controlled environment, where you have more teams and players in one place here. But I know I think it was the Dallas FC team. They had to pull out because there was too many cases all at once here. Now, that's what happens when you have a team that's in a bubble close together here. If someone gets affected, it goes poof like wildfire here. So Major League Soccer, I'm going to put slightly ahead of Major League Baseball here, because they're at least embraced and came up with the bubble concept here. I know that's a word we're definitely hearing a lot here. It's flattening the curve and all that, but it's a bubble is that it's in a controlled environment where you're trying to monitor it, and you have to check in with which we'll talk to with the NBA here. That it's definitely very funny what the NBA has planned here, but which I'll talk about now is the NBA. I mean, I'll put them higher up. Is that all the teams started coming in to their bubble here. I know they have plans that they're in a room for 48 hours when they first come in. They get everything delivered to them, get everything they need delivered to them. There's, vigorous testing here, and that they need 2 negative tests in 48 hours for it to clear to play here. And then they wear bracelets, because I saw that they wear bracelets. Had a nice touch with the, Mickey Mouse, that they're on Disney World here. That's where the ESPN World Sports here. However, it's, how are you going to control all these people in this bubble here, and what restrictions they have in their activity here? But the part that's very, very funny is that they have an anonymous hotline that the NBA can call on some players for breaking the rules. I wonder how those conversation goes here. Let's say, you're a superstar calling, this player, he's leaving the bubble. or someone calls out a superstar. Like, I just find that very funny that we all got to take this seriously here and trying to play it as safely as possible at the end of the day. Let's keep that in mind. But I just find that funny that there's an anonymous snitch line here, kind of like the prison snitch here, where, if you find out that you are called on by this player, I wonder if any of this could happen. But I have some confidence in the NBA and their plans here, where they have their 8 games to close out the regular season with the 22 teams that have been invited in that were still in a playoff spot before the pause here. And then it will still just be a same traditional playoff where it'll be 8 teams in each conference here, and it would just be the same bracketed playoffs here, and that the playoffs will go on until October here. And the theory would be easier to manage as teams get eliminated here, as they have less bodies to watch out for and report on if they leave the bubble, or how do you enforce it if they come back, or they're not allowed to come back, or that's just very interesting here. But I do like the NBA's idea. However, there's one thing that was put in perspective here that you could talk about the MLS and the NBA here is, let's say if someone needs medical attention immediately here, and that one of the protocols is they have to go to the nearest hospital here. The only problem with that here, being that they're in Orlando, Florida here, where that state is one of the hardest hit states, where they're having problems with cases and hospitals filling up with people with COVID there. What happens if you need medical attention and the hospital is full here? You don't want another Italy here, because Italy definitely struggled with the outbreak there back in March there, where it got to the point where people were out in the hallway, and then eventually they said, people over age 80, we got to sacrifice you because you don't have room in hospitals here. So that's the only danger that I have with the NBA here. I like their plan here, but it's still going to be tricky. Let's say if somebody gets sick inside this bubble here, and the risk of, potentially spreading like wildfire, breaking it out here. But we'll see how that goes here. So the one league that I have the most confidence in is actually the NHL here. As right now we're in phase 3 for the NHL, where teams are having their training camps in their home cities here. And then the plan is that next week teams will go into their respective hub cities here. So they all go in their hotels, and it's the same thing, you know. You got to go through vigorous testing. You got to have 2 negative tests after 48 hours. Everything's delivered to you, and it's very controlled. Where you leave from room to game, or your room, your hotel room to the locker room, play your game, and everything. You know, there's no interactions. No, I guess you could say for all sports here, there's no interactions of high-fiving or exchanging jerseys here, and you have to make sure that you use your own water bottle. So they definitely have to be more stringent on, whose water bottle it is, so you're not drinking Timmy's bottle that was Billy's bottle. I'm just throwing names out there. But I definitely have the most confidence in the NHL here on their plans here. I mean, yeah, there were still positive tests, but I think that's inevitable here, especially depending on how much you're out in the public here. But hopefully, the bubble idea is hopefully that everybody is clean, tests negative, is isolated, and some even say with the NHL here, it might actually be the safest spot in Canada, where if you are least exposed to the risk of COVID-19 here. However, here in Alberta, as Edmonton is one of the hub cities here, cases actually have gone up slightly here, while cases have steadily gone down in Ontario for the other hub city, in Toronto for the Eastern Conference there, at least in the play-in and the first 2 rounds of the playoffs here. But I definitely have the most confidence that playoffs will happen in the NHL, and eventually Stanley to be awarded and hoisted here. And I would say to the extent with the Larry O'Brien Trophy, when the basketball there, Major League Baseball, I'm not sure about the World Series here. I mean, there's other examples where Bundesliga got their games in. Baseball, as you know, has been going well in South Korea. However, the only difference in with those countries, with those leagues here, is that their COVID situation was a little more under control than it definitely has been, especially in the U.S. here. Canada, we're doing better. Even Tedros said that in the World Health Organization, but it's still not time to let our guard down. So that's basically, I put the Major League Baseball at the bottom, MLS, NBA kind of in the middle. Although the NBA I put higher than MLS. I have the most confidence in the NHL here, and not least with football here. Both the NFL and CFL here, as we don't know. I'm figuring that for football here, I think it's the most complicated sport to put in this social distancing measures, given the nature of the game, given how many coaches there are, medical staff, and the fact that you just have more bodies that you have to manage here when you're filling your team on game day plus your practice roster here, and you need more space to do that, to play the game, obviously, if it's going to be still. But the plan is, I hear in the NFL, is that, well, they've cut out games in the preseason already. Well, that's been talked about, and they probably should anyway. But I think they're still working on it, because it still sounds like the plan is that the NBA, no, not the NBA, NFL, that they're still going to be playing their games in their scheduled in their home stadiums. No fans, by the sounds of it here, because especially in some states here, including my Chargers. They're based out of the state of California here, and definitely Los Angeles is one of the cities that's definitely been a hot spot too. That's going to be interesting how they're going to manage that. But I don't hear anything about hub cities, or, I mean, I'm losing some confidence that the NFL might not get a season in. Definitely, I'm losing hope in the CFL when it comes to getting a season in. I know it's more detrimental to the CFL because their business model is based on fans in attendance here. The NFL and all these other major leagues, they could weather the storm a lot more. I mean, they're obviously going to be hurting financially here with revenues dropping here, but they got bigger TV deals where they can still recoup some costs here. And the NFL, I say, is definitely the league that's best off with their TV deal there, that they can afford to play with no fans here, but Football, I think it's the hardest to social distance and manage here because you got more people to manage. And how do you put them all in hub cities? Because I know the CFL still was leaning towards possibly a hub city model here. And we keep hearing Winnipeg, Manitoba is a front runner here, or maybe Regina, Saskatchewan here. But, how are you going to, put 50, 60 players and then 10, 20 team staff, coaches and that. I mean, and just the nature of the game. I just don't think football, I can't really rank it because there's no plan yet. And I just think the nature of the game makes it the most complicated to return during this global pandemic here. But it still remains to be seen. I hear the NFL is still working on it. CFL, as quiet as they've been, and you hear speculation on no definitive stores from the main stores here. I mean, the only definitive stores that I can give, which I think I talked about in my last week's video, where I talked about the CFL changing their plans for seeking government intervention because they still think there might be a season here, is that Dave Naylor, one of the insiders on TSN, said, I don't think there's going to be a season this year, but the league will still be around in 2021, which I think that's most likely the scenario. I just don't think the NFL, I just don't see it right now. It could change, that there's going to be a season and eventually a Super Bowl here, so they're probably going to have to push the Super Bowls down to the league a season for each team that was supposed to host it here. But what do you think of all the leagues' return to play plans here? Which one are you the most confident? Which one are you the least confident in? And where are you skeptical on your other ones here? I mean, I give you my take that baseball, I think I have the least confidence in. I'm skeptical on in some level on the other leagues here, but I'm definitely the most confident in the hockey's plan. The NBA and even MLS, they have to have some luck on their side, given the bubble that they're playing in, and just hope that everyone behaves themselves. Don't have to telltale say, hey, you got out of the bubble here. No, you can't play anymore. Go home. I just wish I was a fly on the wall in some of the conversations where someone picks up the phone and tells on him. Yeah, they're all adults here, and it's all for the same goal, is to win a championship. But these are definitely unique and crazy times here, and trying to do it as safely as possible here, but it is what it is. So anyway, if you want to follow along with this Calgary sports fan's journey, on the Flames, Hitmen, the Roughnecks, and Stampeders, I mostly talk Calgary sports here, and that's throughout this whole global pandemic. I've also been looking at other leagues and their return to play plans or speculation here, and we're getting closer to some of these plans actually happening, at least when it comes to the Major League Baseball, National Basketball Association, and the National Hockey League here. In terms of baseball getting a season started, and have a 60-game season, which will definitely make the races a lot more intriguing. More games will matter here. The NBA would be nice to put some closure on the season, and hopefully maybe the Toronto Raptors, well, maybe not, no one will take them as seriously here, and maybe they'll come out and be defending champs. I can dream. And the NHL, hopefully we'll have a nice 2014 playoff, and Stanley can still be awarded here. Because I always say the Stanley Cup is the most impressive championship trophy in sports here, and then jury's still out on football on both sides of the border if there's going to be a season in the CFL. NFL, I mean, I'm still scratching my head trying to think how they can do it to have it so we can still have a Grey Cup champion and a Super Bowl champion here, but I could see football throwing in the towel on both sides of the border, but that's all my take there. And I'll do personal vlogs, attempt to comedy, and I'll do my sharing my experiences at the time on the road at a sport event here. So if it all sounds like you'd be interested to watch, do follow along with this Calgary sports fan's journey. You know what you should do. It's definitely been one heck of a journey, and I have to admit it's definitely been a lot tougher mentally to go through this global pandemic here for various reasons, economically, spiritually, and just how to deal with it here. And it's definitely been very challenging mentally here, especially where I am in my life right now, but trying to soldier on, and this is one thing I do is make videos here. And so as I say here, I'll see you in the next video here, and I do have some more sports content to come here in the next few days when I get to making my notes and plan on what I'm going to talk about there. So I'll see you then.